Oh,
Hello, everyone. I apologize. We're just waiting for everyone to kind of trickle in. I'm very excited to welcome you this evening. My name is Cecilia. This
Got a
is,
kick out of the question in the chat. Is this meeting just for residents around Chicago? That
oh
came
goodness.
right after
mm,
somebody said he's from Minnesota and right before somebody said they were from Austin, Texas.
Yes,
we're
please. I would
international or national here.
very much appreciate if you would put your name and where you are from in the chat. Rebecca, if you would, if you have an agenda, can you also put that in the chat? I would greatly appreciate that. You might have to post that in a PDF form if you can. If you can't, I get it. All right. I'm asking a lot of her short notice, y'all, just so you know, she's amazing. So again, my name is Cecilia, and I'm just kind of wasting time right now, waiting for everyone to kind of trickle in and introduce themselves. But I do want to let y'all know that I'm a member of a big group of our Vision Forward crew that we are putting together this kind of amazing group that came about from our morning crew of Coffee and Conversation. And if you don't know about the NWSOFA crew, it's a 9 a.m. central call that we'll talk about later on. And it has a lot of information, and this was born of it. And so again, my name is Cecilia. I'm from Eastern Illinois, Indivisible. I live in KZ, so not 3.5 hours south of Chicago. But I welcome you. I welcome you to this exciting event. And so tonight, the most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. And that is from Ferdinand Foch. And y'all, are you ready to ignite your passion for democracy? Because I think that we need to really figure out a way to do that. And I think you all know that, because that's why you're here. Tonight, we're coming together not just to talk, but to define the future. This is about building a message that resonates, organizing around values that matter, and making sure that people who feel left behind hear us loud and clear. Whether you are a strategist, a storyteller, or simply passionate about democracy and messaging, we want you to know that your voice, it matters, and we want to hear it. So together, we are here, and we want to craft a clear and compelling vision that cannot be ignored. Your ideas are the spark. So let's light the fire. So, and now I want to hand it off to Dr. Chris for a little bit of grounding, because I tend to go way up here. So, Dr. Chris.
I've got to unmute myself. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Weldy, and I am a member, just like Cecilia, of the wonderful Northwest Suburbs Organizing for Action Indivisible group. And so what I wanted to start with is just to, and I know we still have people coming in, but just to kind of orient you to how this group came to be and a little bit of the background. So as Cecilia mentioned, we have every morning, Monday through Friday, what we call coffee and conversation group that Bill Davis, who's also on the call, organizes. And that is a wonderful hour of getting together with people from all over the country and just kind of sharing, just having conversation, whatever's on our mind. And we learn so much. We have a lawyer, Bruce, that's part of the group. We have somebody that works in Washington, D.C. and shares updates on what's happening with legislation. And then the other cool thing that we have is after that 1 hour session is over, we have what we call after hours. And that we have Debbie Rudy, who is the facilitator of that. So she kind of hangs on to the call a little bit, and it just allows us to, in a more informal way, just kind of continue that conversation. But because it's a smaller group, sometimes we get a little more in depth. So here's what happened. On one day of coffee and conversation after hours with Debbie, which normally is probably like, sometimes it's only another 30-minute or 40-minute session. This particular one went on for 2 hours. Okay, we had a 2-hour after hour, if that makes sense. So and what some of the dialogue in that particular after hours there were some concerns from some of the folks that were on the call that, we're all thinking about, what we need to do with this pro-democracy movement, and what do we do better, and how do we share a more simple vision that resonates with people. So I remember Danette was one of the ones that was on the call, and she said, we've just got to have simple messaging, something that, catches people and resonates with people. And then out of that, we said, well, in order to message, you have to really have kind of a shared vision, like what is our vision going forward? So we've been kind of caught up in reacting right now to all the craziness that's going on in Washington, D.C. with the current administration. And so what's a positive message that we can develop and kind of move forward? So out of that 2-hour after hour was born this idea of vision forward. So that's why we're here tonight. So what I've said is it's a lot for us to really kind of wrap our heads around. We're not going to develop a vision tonight, but we're going to start the dialogue and to start the discussion. So let me just kind of lay out what we're going to do tonight. So we're going to just ask some of these questions, like who are we, and what do we stand for, and what unites us, okay, and what are our shared values for this pro-democracy movement. So that's kind of the section that we'll do. And as the group kind of matures a little bit, and in future meetings, we'll lay out a more clear vision. Some people talked about this idea of a mission statement. And then after we get all that together, how do we message that? How do we communicate that in a way that it reaches people that may have felt left out, left behind, or just stopped believing, really, giving up? So that's what our hope is. We see this as a really positive way forward. And without any further ado, I am going to transition this to Melissa, one of my colleagues, also an active member of the Coffee and Conversation group. So Melissa.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm going to start with just talking about values a little bit. I encountered a wonderful quote from Timothy Snyder. A lot of people might be familiar with him from his book on tyranny. And the quote was from another context. And Carol Cadwallader's Substack article, How to Survive the Oligarchy. But his quote was, and you can see it there, I think. No, you don't see it. But anyway, the quote is, know what you stand for and what you think is good. So know what you stand for and what you think is good. I love that because it kind of says where we can look to ourselves and ourselves as a group to move ourselves forward. I'm inspired by the Coffee and Conversation group because we have gone to such a deep level that it has really informed my understanding and my values. And so for example, so I'd like everyone, if you think about it for a moment, just take a moment and think, what do you stand for? What do we stand for? You could think of it either way. And what do you think is good? What are the values that we embrace. What I like to do is sort of there's an answer that will come up, and oftentimes there's a deeper answer that's underneath that, and that might be where we unite and create movement. So for me, for example, I was writing some letters about immigration because I thought basically because my mother had wonderful health care before she died from Haitian immigrants. And so I wrote some letters to the editor and wrote to my Congress people and so on and so forth about that. So when I asked myself, that seems to be why. It was a very emotional time for me and very meaningful to me. But if I go a little deeper, I realize the answer is also that it's like what I believe, what I feel I stand for, what I think is good is like stone soup. I believe that we all bring something that makes our world and culture better. And so that it doesn't, so it's not a very complex idea, but it's for me a little deeper and just goes to saying, what do we do to form a society together and to form the goals and objectives and bring our values forward. That's my value, but everyone has a different take on things. I mean, if I just went with immigration, people would be like, well, what about the border? What about the border? It's like, we can talk about that in a, that could be a negotiation process, that could be a collaboration process. But what I fundamentally think is that everyone has a place. So that is like my value, and that's what I would like to put forward. So that's an example. If everyone could maybe enter something in the chat based on your own experience. Just take a moment and think about that. What you stand for, what you think is good, what are your values, what are our values that we share.
We have our vision needs to be grounded out of our concern for humanity, fair competition. There's a question, how do we define democracy and what it looks like in the real world? MAGA has their own definition. We need our own, which is a fair question.
Oh my gosh. And also a psychic question, because the next question is, what does democracy mean to you? We get to define it. People are always going to try to redefine us, but so what? They're going to do that. People always define each other. I mean, people stereotype each other. They define each other. And, we want to make sure we're keeping our boundaries around things like that. And I'm sure we have our moments where like, listen, those people. Yeah. But, basically, when you think about democracy, it's a big concept. It's a big umbrella. It means a lot of things. It means different things to different people. What does it mean to us? So you can put that in the chat also. That's actually the next question. What does democracy mean to you? What is it? How do we define it?
We have a couple of people with their hands raised. I apologize for whatever reason. Can someone unmute? Ari, can you please unmute?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I truly, and Bill knows me from forever. I'm a retired, well, I was retired, but I'm working harder now. Retired civil rights attorney in Chicago, working harder now than I did when I was getting paid. But I think, and I truly appreciate all of what you guys do and the conversations you have. I can't join you for the happy hour because, as I said, I mean for the coffee hour because I'm still asleep at 9 o'clock. But I know the great work that you do there. But again, as a woman of color, born and raised in Chicago, African American woman, and experiencing from at that time called Massa Daily, the Daily Machine, a lot of the same things that my family in the South, I was born here, but my family in Alabama was experiencing in terms of racism and classism. I think we need to openly acknowledge that when we talk about democracy, and I put it in the chat, we have to be very explicit about democracy for whom, because, and what's good for whom, because what's good for some is not good for all. And we have to be able to articulate that in a way that everybody feels included. And some of my dear friends are Native Americans. And when we talk about what is being done for the immigrant population, migrant population and quite frankly, some lower income African Americans have said to me that people did not and have not worked as hard for their protection and their rights as they are for the rights of immigrants coming across the border. So I think we have to be very careful and very inclusive as to how we define, you know, what we mean by democracy and who we want to impact, because we cannot assume that everybody will know or believe that you mean you're including them, because their life experience and their life history does not show that. So
I could not agree with you more. There was actually a study that just came out that showed about the how we misconstrued the voters about we misunderstood why they did not vote or and all of that, and they just did not agree with us. We thought they had the same values as we did, we being Democrats. We thought or we being progressives, we thought they shared our same values. We misunderstood that statement because apparently we did not have those conversations. We did not go out and have those hard conversations. And I will say I did not have as many hard, difficult conversations as I should have had. And the one sentence that I always go back to is everything that I did in the last election mattered, and everything that I did not do in the last election mattered. So, and I take that, to heart, that I worked very hard in the last election, but I also could have done more. So anyway, moving on. Thank you, Miss. I agree with you 100%. We have to speak up and have to think about that hard, about the fact that equal means equal. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And you probably have many ideas about how this could happen or how this could be brought about. And it's not a simple question, but I'm glad that you brought it out. Because it's something for us to all create something that is more of a big tent, or that creates space for everybody. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say about that, but if you have ideas about that. Does anyone else want to respond? Any other things in the chat?
There are other things in the chat. Oh, Bobby Hill, go ahead. You have your hand up.
Yes, I was thinking about when we think of values and what democracy means to us. There's a phrase that has become very important to me as I came up through a background in theology and diplomacy. I studied justice with peace, and it is unity in diversity. And it seems to me that the first step toward unity and diversity, which I envision a United States that is immensely diverse and happy to be so. But I think a first step toward achieving unity and diversity is to understand that diversity means difference. It means that not everyone is going to be alike.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I think that's really important. I wrote that down, unity and diversity. I think it's a very important concept and value. And it reminds me too of one of the people who was here today from the Coffee and Conversation, had inspired me with that, because he said, we're not a melting pot. We're a varied group of people, and we have a whole range of folks across the country, rural and urban, different nationalities, experiences. And that we sort of are like, there's like an underlying connection with all of us. And I'd forgotten there was a connection because of what's happened in our country. I was thinking, well, that's all, Robert reminded me that this, and so I feel more inspired by that I believe that more now, or my belief is restored, I would say, so I think working with people like this is helpful in us developing our beliefs and reaffirming our beliefs and changing them in some ways and moving forward. So Constance is going to say something.
Yes, Constance, I'm so sorry. Please go ahead.
Needs to unmute.
I very much appreciated Ms. Fenwick's question about democracy for whom. And my answer to that is, of course, it has to be good for all. And an experience, and then I thought, well, how does that work? And I thought then about a trip I took with another teacher. We took about 10 students to Europe in 2009, the first year of Barack Obama's reign. And the other teacher was a young black male, and he was kind of tall and lanky like President Obama, and he had a great smile. And we would, in train stations or wherever we went, young European boys kind of clustered around him, and they knew he wasn't Barack Obama, but they felt the energy of Barack Obama and the sense of Barack Obama in his presence. And they just couldn't get enough of us, him as an American and us as an American group, and wanted to ask questions and, what was life like under President Obama and everything like that. And I knew then that they were turned on by what we had done in our country and the fun that democracy represented for them of electing someone who is different and cool and hip and could appeal to younger people. And it's sort of like the inspiration of what we had done in our country had kind of lit a fire of inspiration in them. And I just thought that is kind of the appeal of democracy that we haven't felt in 10 years. And we have the people in our party that can do that. Our party is built to create those sorts of figures and bring along those sorts of figures who can reach out to a wider group, that aren't stingy, that aren't greedy, but represent, the fun of being all together, as a group of people. And I just think that we have to recapture that. And the Democratic Party has more brains, more educated people. We have the recipe for rekindling that interest in and that kind of fire for democracy than the Republicans will ever have. And I just think that if we can tap into that, we shouldn't forget it, first of all. And if we can tap into it somehow again, it could be a winning formula for us.
Thank you, Constance. Marie Castano, did you want to share something with us?
Hi. Thank you so much for calling on me. I usually never interact in these kinds of meetings, but you're asking for feedback and suggestions about messaging. And I think a message of fair competition, or at least fighting chance competition for the average American would help, because I feel like we're trying to draw more people in. And I think some people get turned off by left-leaning politics because they think that we just want handouts, that we're lazy, we're too weak, we're sensitive, and we're crying because we just want things to be easier. And I don't believe that at all. And I think if we emphasize fair competition, because 24 hours for the average American versus 24 hours for somebody who can afford a maid, who can afford someone to do their taxes, who can afford someone to tutor their child, care for their child, when they could pay for all of their basic needs and other people to do them, then where does their energy go to, right? Accumulating more wealth and oppressing more people for the most part. So I think if we emphasize fair competition, um, it might draw more people in. And I think, like Trump is an example, like he was born extremely wealthy. It doesn't mean he's more competent, and I think a lot of people see these billionaires as like Olympic athletes, like they train so hard, they work so hard, and they deserve what they got. And they're actually not on the same playing field at all, and they a lot of that is, the upper hand they were born with. So again, I think a messaging of fair competition would help bring this idea that we want a fighting chance for talent to compete, for ideas to compete, and for even human worth to compete. But yeah, thank you. I think I think I'm done.
Thank you so much. And Marie, could you write something a little more in the chat about how you see that, how the fair competition, what that looks like too? You did explain somewhat, but if you could say a little more about that in the chat, that would be great.
And where were you from?
Thank you. Right now I'm living in Indiana, but I'm born and raised in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, thank you so much for
Yeah.
speaking up.
Thank you.
And then we have Robert.
Yes, Robert.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Ah, all right. Melissa, I'm glad you brought up the idea that we're not a melting pot. I think the visual that I took away when Ed brought it up was a plywood. We are a cultural plywood, one over the other at different times, and that's what makes us the kind of people we are. I think the redefinition of what democracy is going to be a primary concern, and that needs to be sort of out front for us. But what I would like to say is that is there anybody in the group who might have like project management experience? Because I think it could be really helpful with you know, we place some organization around a lot of these ideas that are they're quite similar and they quite act on each other. But I've got to tell you, in history, it's the organization that wins. It isn't it isn't the ideas or anything. The ideas push the organization, but it's the organization that will eventually succeed or fail. And I think if anybody has that kind of background, it would be very helpful to organize our efforts so that we do get the results that we're looking for, because we're looking for a lot of results, right? We're all in the same arena, but the arena is pretty damn big. All right. Anyway, I would just put that out there. If anybody has that kind of experience, I would love to work with you. I've got a little bit of that experience. There's one other thing that I like to share with you, because it involves how you get a message out. All right. And in business, it's called the 5 Ps. All right. And it might need a little translation between what the businessmen look at and what our organizational requirements would be. But anyway, the 5 Ps are product, price, promotion, place, and people. All right. This is the key of every marketing department in capitalist countries. The product is what your output is, what our output is. All right. So our product is a lot of things right now. We may need some organization in honing it down. The price is simply the opportunity effort that we put in to get our output. All right. The promotion stands for itself. The more you can promote the message, the more you get it out, the more market you can cover, the more your product is going to be accepted. Place involves the channels. This right here is a channel. All right. We can multiply this channel through organization. Right. Think of the different ways to package the message and then get it out. And finally, the last P is the people, both the people internally and the people we want to affect. All right. So we need to understand the human dimension of what our visions are. That
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
talk too much, Melissa.
Thank
I'll
you.
raise my hand again if it
And
comes
I think
back
that
to
was
me.
a reach out to people who want to do project management. Also, even though right at this stage, we're in the vision and envisioning stage, which is a foundation for eventual action. But I do think people might want to put in the chat if they are interested in that in response to Robert's reach out. I see Alfeo, you are there with your headphones and beautiful pictures behind you.
Yes, I painted them.
Wonderful. That was
uh,
wonderful. And creativity is a wonderful, wonderful avenue to push ourselves forward.
Yes, it is, and even in all this stuff, I'm just going to throw some words that came out. We have to be bold. We have to have a let's do it attitude. We have to have a let's make it happen attitude. There was a governor of Maryland that just said something in the last few days, Wes Moore, about it. Look what Trump was able to do in 100 days. Think what we can do in 100 days.
Right.
So, and I guess that is a something written up, something to be made. If we had control of Congress, we got to move fast. We got to be forward thinking. We have to be grassroots. But just look at what we can do, and that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Alfeo. How about Joseph?
Oh,
Hi, thanks, Melissa. I'm Joe Dragone from Long Island. I just do that now out of habit, Bill. Whenever I introduce myself, I'm Joe Dragone from Long Island because I think of you. You keep asking me to tell where I'm from. Um, I I have spent 54 years in public education, from the elementary level to graduate school and college. And the thing that I've noticed most uh, as I look across that breadth of experience is that kids in kindergarten, they get it right. They understand what's important. They know how to share. They know how to hug. They know how to love each other. Somehow, by the time they get to graduate school, they've forgotten all of those things. And it's really unfortunate that as adults, we can't assume the qualities of children in the way we deal with each other. I have a quick story for you that tells you what I mean by this. My daughter, when she was in high school, three of my daughters, when they were in high school, but one in particular, went down to Nicaragua because they wanted to help the Nicaraguans rebuild their school system, which had been destroyed by civil war, and dig wells and build houses. So they brought all this expertise with them down to Nicaragua, and they were struck by the joy with which the children greeted them. They were walking around in flip-flops that were bare to the bone, maybe had one dress, two dresses, poor as poor can be. And one of the children had a tangerine, which she really treasured. And my daughter, Christine, asked her, "Boy, that looks good. I hope you enjoy that when you eat it." And her first response was, "Oh, great. I'd love to share it with you." And Christine was in tears because here is the poorest child she's ever met in her entire life. And her first thought was to share one of the most precious things she had. Christine came back to America a changed person, absolutely changed. She realized that what we have in this country is a blessing from God that we may not even deserve. So I really think that the most important value we can keep in mind is the value of protecting our children, making sure that they have a safe environment to grow up in. I have 6 grandsons now. The only thing I live for now is to watch them grow up in a democracy. So anyway, that's my pitch.
Thank you very much. I think that's a wonderful frame for how we want to approach things, that we want that for our children and grandchildren. And it's a great example of togetherness. Let's see, we have Joe Woods.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm from Glen Ellen, Illinois. And I've been on a number of the NWSOFA calls. So a couple of things I want to mention. One is kind of big picture. So as I think about messaging and vision, in my experience in business, I'm retired now, but it's important to have a few kind of overarching messages or themes, I'll call them, that we want to focus on and put out. And, you know, one of the concerns that I have with listening to what we as Democrats are saying is that we're scattered and, you know, day to day, it's hard to figure out what exactly we're trying to push forward. And if you create a thematic structure, you can still talk about all of the different issues, but you organize them around a concept and use the individuals as examples. And, you know, then you drive it down to, you know, real people who are affected by those things. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I think we need to take very strong, direct positions and talk to people the way they and we talk, not flowery or, you know, kind of Washington speak, but just be direct and say what we're saying. Third thing is that we have, I think, the opportunity to stake claim to some positions that are very important, but that we have ceded to the other guys. And in this whole debate about, you know, the No Kings stuff coming up and also this bill, you know, we're kind of giving them a pass. We have given them a pass on patriotism and protecting the country and all that stuff. All the pocketbook issues and tax cuts, they're framing the issues better than we are. And I think we have the opportunity to frame messages around particularly given what's going on in that bill, protecting people's pocketbooks. And the whole message, which I think is very direct, you know, they're cutting our benefits and services, they're cutting Medicaid, they're cutting food, and they're giving tax cuts to the rich. So those are some things. In terms of patriotism, I put some stuff in the chat, but, you know, I think a lot of it is around freedoms, and that comes in many forms. Okay. But, you know, it's an overall respect for those personal freedoms, control of our bodies, and, you know, can be a broad thing, but bodies, who we love, those sorts of things. Freedom of speech, freedom from not being detained or targeted because of what we say and without due process, and the rule of law. So those are all things that are under attack, but that we can state clearly that we are supporting. And then the last thing, I saw someone put something in the chat. Our statement needs to be positive and forward-looking. A lot of the discussion that, and I fall into this all the time, is against the things that are happening now. I think I personally, and people I talk to, I want to understand, what are we for? What are we fighting for? If we're asking people to go out and go on the streets, it's not, yes, it is against things, but it also is, what are we fighting for? And, I've put some stuff together. The way I view it is, if we define what we're fighting for, we can then talk about what we're against that these people are doing that don't align with our vision for the country. So,
Thank you. And feel free to put more in the chat if you'd like to. That's exactly what we're working towards. I agree with you 100%. I'm going to check with our timekeepers how we're doing for time. There's a couple more.
We are going to wrap things up about 8:30 tonight. And can we head over to Marnie Finch? She's been waiting a while.
I am very patient.
Oh,
I don't know Marnie. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see her.
That's
Oh, there. Hello. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now I do see it. Yeah,
so
you
that's quite all right.
anyway, yeah.
I'm from Indivisible. I'm not from. I am part of Indivisible Gulf Coast down here in Pensacola, Florida. And I'm going to throw something out, and I'm really not sure why I'm going to throw it out, but it's kind of been something that's bugging me. First off, the two previous guys that spoke, spot on. I just really like their stuff. I'm a little hung up on terms like all and everyone. And my concern is kind of twofold. Part of it is just energy. I want to be able to spend my energy on folks and things where I think I have some degree of success. And if some folks get left in the bushes, I'm okay with that. And the sort of the second part is that, as y'all have talked about, gosh, I'm a Yankee and I just used y'all. As y'all have talked about, they're just folks out there that don't want to participate, don't want to believe, they want to just have their own thing. And I'm willing to give everybody a shot, but I'm not gonna burn any bridges trying to bring them across the line. And I guess I just sort of wanted to throw that out as a general thought. The desire to be inclusive is great. The intent to be inclusive is great. But you can only lead a horse to water, and some folks I just assume drowned. So that's pretty much my comment. Can I ask one really simple question? I just noticed on my little name tag it says Marnie Finch, her. I know I'm a her. I don't know how her got on there, and I don't know how to take that off.
I think you probably at some point put in your pronouns at some, like, they allowed you to put your pronoun in one of the sections, and it probably just put it in there for you.
Marnie, scroll up to the little box with the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner of your picture.
Oh my.
I think that's the answer to absolutely everything. Is those three
click on those 3 dots.
Can we
and choose rename.
So we need 3 dots to be able to restore democracy. If there was in the 3 dots, we would.
Wouldn't that be great?
But
there you go.
I also want to say, I think you referred to boundaries, Marnie. You were, I think, talking about the boundaries are important. That's how I'm looking at.
Well, I just didn't know who else to ask, so you guys are it. But anyhow, and I guess my only other comment is dignity and personal value. That's important. Having it and acknowledging it are important. And there's still some folks I just assume drowned rather than help them drink. Thank you.
Are we doing? So we have Nora and Jeannie in the loop here. So Nora, did you want to share with us?
Yeah, I know you said this wasn't the time to discuss it, but I didn't want to just leave a comment because I think it really should be discussed about project management. And I have to say, I have an MBA, so my brain is wired that way to, before you start anything, with a group, you do need that vision and the mission. Now we just the vision right now is fine. And but we need to understand what that includes. And usually the vision statement is so vague, like Toyota is 2 sentences. So yeah, focusing on, right now we're focusing on what is important to us regarding our values and whatnot. That's the perfect way to start. But I don't think we should wait a really long time before we say, okay, this is what we want to work towards to develop our vision statement. So we
Right.
do one correctly.
Right. And
And
we
like I
plan
said, yeah, I apologize, but like I said, I have an MBA and I worked in project management my whole life, so I'm just hardwired to think that way.
Nor we had no intention of procrastinating. We just couldn't do it at all in 1 hour. Like,
Right, right.
I
Okay,
promise.
well,
And just if I could just add to Nora, because I agree with you. We going forward, we're going to have to develop a very precise vision statement and mission statement. One of the things that I just noticed in the chat that really just as I was going down through the chat is, so as we're talking about what some of the things are that are kind of our shared values, like one of the things that came up in the chat is diversity. And then you contrast that to what's happening currently, where we have an administration that is like anti-diversity, right?
Yeah.
So it's back to that conversation.
Yeah.
Are we really a melting pot? No, that doesn't seem to be a value this group has, right? We believe that we're very distinct, diverse people, and that should be celebrated. So that then becomes part of one of those shared values that we agree on. Somebody else said education's really important. We need to have access to voting. I mean, voting and having our voice being heard, and representatives that actually represent us. I think that was Adrian that mentioned that. And then we talked about valuing all human beings, right? All human beings, not just white human beings, and not just people that are legally here, maybe, but all human beings. So I think what we're doing right now is really just kind of fleshing out as a group, saying it out loud. I know a lot of us, we have this in our heads. This is part of it's part of our, who we are and what we stand for. But now we're doing this kind of as a group. The other thing was empathy and caring. Now, the reason that stood out to me is I worked in federal service right before I retired. Do you know that empathy was one of the words that they sent to DOD to expunge? And I was in education, like, can you imagine trying to teach caregivers of children or teachers of children that empathy isn't a value that you would want in your classrooms and in your work environments? So, like I said, what we're doing here tonight is really fleshing this all out. So the foundation of a vision, right, is getting some consensus on what our values are as a group. And I think it's beautiful what you guys have in the chat. It's coming out loud, clear empathy and preserving our rights and our freedoms when we're seeing our rights and our freedom right before our very eyes be dismantled. Women who can't choose to do what they want to do with their bodies, right? So anyway, and I know people are also super excited to get to the messaging part, but we're going to have to do this kind of in steps, right? Like come up with our values, and then work with Nora and people like her that have program management things to, flesh out that mission and vision statement. And then once we get that, where it's in that very, I forget who said it, that very, it might have been Joe, that very precise, simple, message, then we, vision, right? Then we can start thinking about ways we message that in a way that makes sense to people and isn't academic speak or, what you would hear in a Harvard classroom, right? So something that resonates with people that we interface with every day. So, but I think I'm excited about what you guys have come up with, because I think it's showing who we are as a group already,
So we have 4 more people. I have to check, is our timetable till top of the hour or till half past the hour? That's one of the questions. We put it in till half past, but we weren't sure today. Yes.
We're going till 8:30.
Oh, okay, good. And so we have a few more people, and I don't know, happy to continue. And also Chris, at some point, I'm gonna introduce you to the next section, but happy to introduce you and you could take over if you want. So we'll just maybe go to Jeannie and then I think we lost Adrian there, but okay. Jeannie, do you want to tell us about your thoughts about all this? Oh, you can unmute yourself. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, I'm unmuted. I hope this is appropriate at this time. But the two words I think of, one would be equality. And that refers to everyone receiving the same resources or opportunities, regardless of the individual needs. Mm-hmm. But to me, there's a more important word, which is equity. And that, on the other hand, means providing each person with the specific resources and opportunities they need to achieve a fair outcome, recognizing that individuals may have different starting points or needs. And I had read this several times on Blue Sky, and it showed a picture of three people standing, trying to look over a wall, over a fence. And there's an adult, there's a 10-year-old, and there's a toddler. All right. To be equitable, we would give everybody a box. And to some degree, they would all be able to see over the box. Toddler, not so much. But for equality, that would be the way we would do it. They would all have the same. But to be equitable, we would give the adult really doesn't need anything to see over the fence. The 10-year-old might need one box to see over the fence, but the toddler would need two boxes. I was a speech pathologist, and I spent my whole life trying to make education equitable for, my language impaired children that were having difficulty. But I don't know. I hope this.
No, it's wonderful, and it's a very relevant experience. And you can put maybe more in the chat about that because you have that experience of working with people to help their speech be more equitable.
And the only other thing, talking about sympathy and then comparing it to empathy. Sympathy would be kind of, watching one of the commercials of the little African children as they're starving and they're swatting away flies and thinking, oh, bless their hearts, bless those little children's hearts. But it's from a distance, and it's also from almost a position of power. Empathy is getting down on your hands and knees and looking at that homeless person and thinking, but by luck go I. And that to me is what it's all about, is truly understanding that all of us, but by different circumstances and different privileges, we could be in very different situations. But anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. And I think what I'm getting from that is that we want to reclaim empathy and equity, which has gotten a bad deal. It's gotten a bad name. We want it back.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have a few more people who have spoken before. Is there anyone we haven't gotten to before we go back to some of our people who are up again? And I forget, Marie, I think you had spoken before. Marie, go ahead, Marie. Yeah.
Hi, I haven't spoken before. And I just have to say, I'm from Missouri, and, during the election, we voted, Proposition 3, which was to make abortion legal. And then we also voted that people should be able to get, the minimum wage. And then our Missouri government has refused to do it.
Yep.
They're going to put the abortion thing back on, and they're refusing to give raises. And so my point being for that is, you know, when we do go out and vote, our vote has to be respected and done. You know, we need, when we vote for something, we don't need politicians that don't agree with it and their morals don't agree or whatever to take that away from us. They're supposed to be representatives of us, you know, and it really, and you know, and our president calling people what, the crazy libs or whatever. And I'm like, they're supposed to be representing us, not their opinions. And so, how do we get that across to people too? You know, that what the people, the majority want is what America's all about. It's not about, you know, one religion or one opinion. It's about the majority being able to take care of everybody.
Marie, where in Missouri are you? Where are you from?
St. Louis.
All right. And I'm just wondering, what exactly is Missouri doing about?
Well, I just joined another group. It's called Respect Missouri Voters. And we're supposed to get out and we're going to get petitions signed and stuff to what I'm hearing. I have only been on one call and just joined, but they're going to do petitions so that once we make a, you know, once we vote on something, they can't go back and change it. They did it with puppy mills. We voted to make puppy mills illegal, and we voted to make horse racing, which I mean, I didn't really care about, you know, legal. And they didn't do that years ago. And now they're doing it on this kind of stuff. And it's just so maddening. And it's like, why do we keep voting to let people that won't represent us represent us?
Right.
So,
And I just had a comment about that. So I mean, what my takeaway from that is, we've got to remind, I mean, again, back to shared values. We the people, right? This is a representative republic, right? And some of our representatives have lost sight of that. So that's the contrast. That's what we offer as the alternative. So we don't have a Joni Ernst saying, well, you know, who cares if you lose Medicaid? You're all going to die anyway. So what the heck? I mean, whoever talks to constituents like that, and it's starting at the top. And that's because we're in the middle of a transition to an autocracy, right? Because when you're a king or a dictator, then there is no representation. So we have to contrast what's happening with this administration with what our vision is for our pro-democracy movement, right? I mean, that we've got to draw that contrast, and you hit it right on the head, right? I mean, that we need representatives that represent us. Right?
And the power, people got to get out and you know, protest or not buy from the stores that don't do DEI, or back the people that are helping us. And I'm just sitting there laughing at Trump and Musk as they sit there and try and, you know, destroy each other. I'm like, keep it up, keep it up.
Yeah. Well, we have an opportunity now, right? Because we do have this friction that's happening right now with the party, and we can use that as an opportunity to amplify the alternative, the contrast, and draw the contrast. But
thank you.
I think you're 100% right, Chris and Marie. And I think what I got from you too, Marie, is rule of law. Laws are being enacted and they're not being carried out. And that's
very frustrating.
Right. What I'm going to do now, I think we have more people who would like to speak, and I don't want to miss Adrian and or anybody. But Chris, would you like to go over it and take that over? Chris is going to address food for thought, but we do probably have a little more time for people to pitch in, especially some folks that haven't spoken yet. Did you want to take that on there, Chris?
Yeah, so what we'll do so Cecilia, if you could drop the Heather Cox Richardson YouTube link into the chat. And while we're working on getting that there, so I mean, what we're going to transition to is, I just want to give you some food for thought as we think about where we, you know, what we've just done, and then also what we'd like you to look at before we have our next session. So while we're doing all that, let me go ahead and I'm going to go back to Joseph, and we'll just go through the last couple of people that had their hands up that had something to add.
And Chris, I forgot to say, Dr. Chris Weldy is taking over right now to talk about food for thought. There we go.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
Chris, I think Adrienne hasn't spoken yet, so I defer to her first.
Okay, all right, Adrienne, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Chris, maybe you can tell me if it's too early in the discussion, but as people are kind of brainstorming and thinking about plans, I definitely want to center youth and even attracting international youth to America. One question that arises, of course, is like how much and how fast can we reverse what is happening? But that's definitely central in my thoughts. I heard somebody speaking, suggesting that some of the former generations they felt had not only created a very soft bed for themselves, but were unapologetically pulling the ladder up behind them, right, as a visual image. So it's just something that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we certainly want to be inclusive, right? And I think what I keep hearing in lots of different forums is just the need. Then I think Ezra spoke about it today on the call with Indivisible. Is that need to get young people engaged and involved. Now you mentioned international youth, so I may not completely understand where you were going with that. If you want to clarify that a little bit more, or were you just talking about opening up the country so we are pulling in more people with diverse ideas and, you know, internationally?
Definitely, like by means of reversing, you know, some of the exclusion of students. I mean, there are a lot of disincentives to come.
Yeah, so right now the people that they're kicking
many
out,
more people
right?
in.
Yes,
People that we're kicking
absolutely.
out, but we should have been more inclusive from the start. I mean, think about why, you know, masses of immigrants have come here in the past, especially in waves. Like, what are the opportunities that we could create that would draw people in?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, and the other day I live very, very close to our immigration facility here. I mean, where people, or citizenship, you know, where they get their citizenship. And you know, my grandmother came over as an immigrant, you know, one of 10 Italian children, with half being born in what she called the old country and the other half being born here in America. And we are a country of immigrants. We've always been a country of immigrants. And we, to me, that was so fundamental in what made America the amazing place that we are. And I know that we can be, right? Is that we're diverse. You know, I'm in San Antonio. We have this great, rich culture here. And just to see that being washed away and suppressed, it's sad. And as I drove by the immigration facility, you know, the citizenship, they were having a ceremony where it was the day that they got their citizenship, so you saw people out there waving flags and all that. And it was such a powerful feeling, because it's what we stand for, right? Is being this beacon of hope for people, you know, an opportunity to have a better life for not only themselves, but for their children and their grandchildren. So yeah, thank you, Adrienne. Gonna transition to Adora. I think you are next.
Hi, thank you for recognizing me. Yeah, the thing that I would like to add onto this whole conversation, and I appreciate your holding this meeting, this has been very interesting, is the focus on the Constitution. I'm seeing that being brought up in the chat, and I think that is a good train of thought, particularly if we focus on the line in the preamble about by the people, for the people, because I believe, from what I'm seeing, that seems to be the thing that is hitting home with people everywhere. It's the leaders are supposed to be representing us, but they don't even know who we are and they don't care. It's supposed to be, you know, a government created by the people for the people. Simply focusing on the Constitution, unfortunately, is going to be a little bit chasey in the current environment because the Heritage Foundation has used the Christian biblical technique of creating a interpretation theory. So they interpret it, the Constitution, in a different way and therefore choose to believe that it says something it doesn't. They've actually given it a certain name. I forget what it's called, but apparently this is a theory, whatever. It's been around for a while. So keep bringing it down to basics and really focusing on for the people, by the people is probably the easiest and most direct way to go. What I'm seeing in terms of things that are happening where this seems to be clicking with people is when you've got leaders who are participating in the community walks to walk the neighborhood for security purposes and to watch out for ICE. Where people are getting to know the leaders, are knocking on doors and making sure everybody is okay and listening to what their concerns are. Really spending time just letting people say what it is they need, what they're afraid of, where they need to go. I feel like our leaders in government have completely disconnected themselves from people so much that simply taking the time to listen to people is much more powerful than it would have been 30 years ago. And that's it. I'm sorry. That's it. I'm rambling. That's what I had to say.
Yeah, no, I saw that there were a couple people in the chat that put similar things, is that our representatives have lost sight. They work for us, right? We elected them to basically implement things that were important to us, and what we, that's how they got into office. And I've seen that over and over here in Texas as well, where we go and protest at a senator's office, and then he tweets out saying, sorry, I missed the group from Indivisible and Bear County Dems. Haha, wait till you see the big beautiful bill. I mean, when did that ever happen? When did we ever have representatives that blew off constituents like that? So yes, I agree 100% with what you said. James, you are up next. And then I think what we're going to have to do is maybe close it off with Joseph, just so we kind of get through the last little bit of the wrap up, if that's okay. Is that okay, Robert, with you? Is that we close with Joseph? Or okay. All right. So James, you are up.
Yeah, I've been in what's called landmark education for about 45 years. And there's a book that was done a few years ago called The Three Laws of Performance. And it's a great book. And the third law is, and I think this is what we need to focus on, is that future-based language transforms how the situation occurs for people. So in our document, I mean, it's like John F. Kennedy said, we're going to go to the moon in 10 years. And that was future-based thinking. And I think that we can kind of start with, we the people want to put a lot of the things that we were just talking about, equity and diversity, and just speak to people about telling the truth and creating a country in which we have people who, like we've been just talking about, that are going to be doing what the people want and not what they want. Because like we've been saying, people have gotten away from that, and they think that they're all powerful and can do whatever they want because nobody's paying attention. And I think that, like Robert Reich has said, is that what the administration has done is gotten people talking about our democracy. I didn't go around talking to people. I just ignored them. If they didn't agree with me, I just ignored them and didn't talk to them about what I felt about our democracy and where I wanted to see the country go. And so I think that this is a great exercise because we've gotten so much into our corners that it's time for all of us to come together and create a world that will work for everyone with no one and nothing left out. And
Yeah,
we're
and
grinding. Go ahead.
oh no, go. I was just going to add to what you said is just, I think we took democracy for granted,
That's
right?
right.
I think this has been a wake-up call for all of us in terms of how easily a democratic country, right, can go to, we're seeing it slide another direction. But you had something else that you wanted to add.
Well, I was just going to say, we have. I've always felt that this man was here to support us in grinding up the underlying issues that have been there in our democracy even since the beginning, and creating a more perfect union so that we are more involved and know that, like he just said, we all have a stake in this. So that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Joseph?
So I wanted to follow up on what James just said and also what Jeannie Sutton said about equity. The metaphor is so wonderful. The fence represents the roadblock for us to get to the other side where things are good, where we want to be, the promised land in biblical terms. And having the three different types of boxes so that the adult doesn't need one box for the child and one box for the two boxes for the infant. That's the first step. The next step is to take down the goddamn fence. Take down the thing that's blocking us from getting to the other side. Because then people in wheelchairs can get there. Then people who are blind can get there and feel the ground even if they can't see it. So thanks, Jeannie, for the metaphor. It's really a wonderful one.
Yeah, thank you.
I was going to add one more thing, and that
Okay.
if anybody knows about the 9 dots, we have to get beyond the 9 dots. And I'll just tell you, it's the basic is you have to go. You put 9 dots equally spaced apart. You have 4 lines to connect all 9 dots, and you can't lift your finger. You can't lift your pen from the page to do it.
Go outside the box.
That's right. You got to go outside the box to
Wow.
make it work. And that's where we need to go.
All right. Well, thank you. So, what we're gonna get ready to close down for the evening. So before I turn it back over to Cecilia, I wanted to point your attention to a link that we have put in the chat. So this is Heather Cox Richardson. Some of you I know are regular viewers of Heather Cox Richardson, so you may have already seen it, but maybe just look at it again. So it's the 3rd June political chat, and specifically the topic of it, the title of it was Trump, Biden, and the Democrats' Way Forward, which is nicely aligns with kind of our vision forward and the direction. So one of the things that she says in the video, I'll just give you a couple of high points, is that, going forward, we really need to focus on kitchen table issues, those kinds of things that are important to every family, the things that matter to most Americans, like healthcare and the economy, the things that keep you up at night, right? The worries that you have. But she also makes this very important point, I think. She says, looking forward, she is encouraging us to focus on what we want America to become. So this is kind of the framework that I want you to think about, what we want America to become, rather than dwelling on past democratic missteps. That whole what we should have done, could have done, might have done differently is not where she thinks we should focus our energy. So I'm going to ask everybody to look at that. Obviously our plan is to continue this conversation, and we'll likely set this up as a monthly recurring conversation as we flesh out our vision. And what Heather Cox Richardson's asked us to think about is, what kind of America do we want to become? And I am going to turn it over now to Cecilia, who is going to close this out for the evening. Thanks. And she's got to unmute herself first, though.
So I will say out loud, thank you, everybody. Tonight, we did not just talk about democracy. We began the very hard work of reclaiming its meaning together. We named our values. We shared our hopes. We started to shape a vision that's not just about resisting what is wrong, but about building what is right. And we know that people are tired. We are tired of shouting into the void, tired of feeling unheard, tired of watching others, while power, serves the few, the 1%, right? But what we've done tonight here in this gathering space is prove that there is another way, and one rooted in empathy and courage and truth and community. We are not alone, and we are not powerless. Our next steps start right now. We'll take what is shared tonight, and we'll begin shaping messaging tools, campaigns, and next sessions. If you'd like to join a working group, whether it's storytelling with our Sharing Our Stories group with Dr. Chris, or future breakout sessions, which we will have in this vision group, I hope you added your name to the list in the chat. Rebecca dropped that in the chat. Or just add your name and contact information in the chat, because we will go through that chat with a fine-tooth comb, y'all. And so we will send follow-up with notes, resources, and a call for the next meeting. Also, we have the NWSOFA Coffee and Conversation at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday with info and community. Although we do understand that that people have jobs. So if you cannot make that, we have a new meeting called Sorting Soup Decompression Hour beginning June 10th at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time to dig a little deeper and hopefully put knowledge into action in our communities. And all of those will be recorded and hopefully sent out so that you can put that into your communities. The whole point, all of this, is to gather knowledge and help you to be able to put this into action, take it back and put it into action into our communities. So, as Heather Cox Richardson reminds us, the way you change politics is to change the way people think. And the way you change the way people think is that you make sure your voice is heard, and you find your friends and you speak together. So tonight, let this be the start of us speaking together. Our voices, our stories, our vision. And this is how we move forward. So good night. And thank y'all for being the soul on fire. And thank you so much for taking your very limited time with us. We appreciate you.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. So I need to